Hello, and welcome to First Paso, a show where we learn together how to take that first paso toward becoming the best versions of ourselves. My name is Candace Olusola, and today's a different day. I am in a grieving process, and I want to talk a little bit about grief today. But before I do that, as promised, I wanted to share what ended up happening for my 35th birthday. So my best friend, Jonelle, who you guys have had seen on this pod and have heard her story, she planned 2 days of surprises for me. So on my birthday, I went to her house and she had this amazing breakfast spread for me. We ate, we prayed together, and then she told me to get in the car and we were going to go somewhere. Turns out she was taking me to the Jennifer Hudson show, and that actually airs this Thursday. Just the Big Sean is going to be on March 13th. So tomorrow, the segment with Big Sean, I'm sitting somewhere in the middle back. From the viewer side, it'll look like middle back right. And she's next to me. And for the March 14th show, Jonelle and I are slightly off center, middle, front row. And it was amazing. Jennifer Hudson is an inspiration to be going from being a singer and a powerhouse of a woman and mom to doing something she hadn't done before, which feels a lot like what I do right now. And it's neat to see someone else coming out of a space that they're really familiar with to start something new, much like a Kelly Clarkson as well, or a Drew Barrymore, coming from spaces that they're really comfortable in into having their own talk shows. It's just an amazing thing. Sherry Shepherd, I think, is a similar shift. So that was a blast. They celebrated me on set. I got a free J Hud t-shirt, which was awesome. And then from there, we went to another surprise, and she had gotten all of my Gather LA peoples that I really love, that I'm closest to, those that could come, to surprise me for dinner at a restaurant in Los Angeles. And of course, that brought me to tears. I cried a lot that day from all these surprises. The next day, we went out to Riverside County, and I got to have a surprise breakfast with another dear friend of mine who couldn't make it to the birthday dinner on my birthday. So the day after my birthday, she had arranged with Jonelle a way to still surprise me in a special way. And so they both surprised me with this breakfast. And just like J Hud, just like the restaurant the night before, this restaurant sang me happy birthday, and they got a waiter to dance salsa with me in the restaurant, and people were cheering and clapping, and amazing. And then Jonelle and I went to a botanical gardens, and we just walked around and talked and took pictures and met other random people that were walking and talked and connected with them. And then we ended the day with a spa. We just had a nice spa day and entered the Sabbath feeling really relaxed and rested. So that was my birthday. And the day after my birthday, So it was neat. And I just want to publicly thank you, Jonelle, for not just seeing me, but gifting me what I needed, not just what I wanted. The intentionality that you put behind it, unmatched. So, thank you, sis, for loving me in that way. I'm so grateful. And thank you to everyone who got me a birthday gift, because first off, they're still coming in and you're still able to get me one until March 27th, which is a month after my birthday. Some people asked me, like, girl, I don't have the money in February, but I might have it in March. So can I get you a gift? Yes, you can still get me a gift. The link is in the description box and in the show notes. So please, if you want to get me a gift, I'm still receiving them. But I've gotten, books, and I've gotten so many things, like a coloring book. I got ChatGPT Millionaire, Ego, Authority, Failure, Faith-Made Millionaire, Psychologity. As you can see, I like books. Tony Evans, Kingdom Woman. Like, I got so many things. The 4 Disciplines of Execution. I got Twister, Extreme. I got this band for my Apple Watch. Listen, blessed. And of course, it's stuff that I actually wanted because I put it on my gift list. But it's always a surprise to see who decided to get me what and why. And then just being surprised what I'm getting. Because even though it's on my list doesn't mean I'm getting it, right? So thank you to everyone near and far who went out of their way to bless me with a gift that I actually wanted, and can utilize. Like I said at the beginning of this, I'm grieving. The last time I did a grief episode, it was for my uncle Eddie in South Africa, who had passed away in July of 2021. And that episode called I'll Be Seeing You. I'll put a link to that somewhere. But that episode was really hard for me to do. I was trying to process losing him, and he was like a dad to me. He was so much more than an uncle. He was like a dad to me. I loved him to pieces, and to this day, I think about him almost daily. Things that I want to share with him, things that I want to ask him, things that I want him to pray about, things that I want his advice on that I can no longer do. Well, 2 days before my birthday, actually when I had recorded the last episode and the YouTube video for my 35th birthday, a few hours after recording, I found out at like 1:45 a.m. on February 25th, which is 2 days before my birthday, that Uncle Eddie's son, his only son, who, if you haven't figured out, is like a brother to me, not a first cousin, he unexpectedly passed away that morning in South Africa. And this has been a blow for me and my family. And so I wanted to talk about grief again in this season, because I'm not the only person in my life, and I don't know about you. You might actually be going through a grief process right now. But I've had at least 4 other people in my life in the last 2 weeks lose a close family member. One lost an uncle that he lived with. He unexpectedly died in the hospital. One lost her grandmother. Another lost her father. And someone lost their brother. And so I've been comforting other people in their grief only to get hit with a loss of my own, and then someone else in my life that I love having a loss of their own, and being sandwiched in between other people's death griefs while trying to handle my own has been a lot. So let's talk about grief today. This is not one of those super cheery, kiki episodes. This is real, raw. Not that the other ones aren't real and raw, but this is happening in real time for me. And I want to be present with any emotions that I have in this episode. And I want to check in with you on how you're processing any grief. And I want this to also be something you can send to someone else who might be navigating their own grief, however they're grieving and however they're handling that. So let's start with the fact that grief is not fun. It's filled with different stages that don't come in the same order for everyone, and not everyone hits every stage. Some people hit some stages harder than others. There's like 5 stages of grief. There's denial, which in this particular death in my life, I was in denial until the morning of my birthday. And then I lost it. And then I kept going in and out of denial and uncontrollable weeping and not making sense of the death, especially since he was 4 months older than me. So I was also feeling guilt in a way that I'm celebrating turning 35 when he doesn't get to see the unfolding of a full 35. I don't know if I'm going to get that for myself. But again, grief works in a funny way, right? And so let's talk about grief. Like I said, there's denial, there's depression, there's anger, there's bargaining, like, Lord, it should have been me, or had I X, or if I'd Y. There's a lot of confusion that comes with grief. I think grief shows up differently in different spaces with different people, even. Grief sneaks up on you in the most unexpected moments. You just have this memory, or you have these responses that you've not experienced before, or maybe you have in a different grieving season, and it's still different because it's a different person that you're grieving, or a different relationship that you're grieving. Grief doesn't have to be the death of a person. It can be the death of a relationship, a death of a friendship, a death to a dream job, or the death to things that just rip us apart in a way that we're not ready for, we're not expecting, even when we mentally and emotionally prepare for something to die. Like, we know that it's coming. We even have the day it's coming. or we've been journeying through this process of a journey of death with someone, whether it's cancer or something else. We're like mentally and emotionally going through everything. And yet, grief does what grief wants to do. And grief looks different on everybody. It doesn't come in the same order. It doesn't come in the same waves. It doesn't come in the same strengths. But it does come as it wants to come. Some of us try to overshadow our emotions and our thoughts with busyness. We try to just keep busy. I don't even want to deal with it. I don't want to be bothered with the fact that someone died, or I lost this job, or she broke up with me, he broke up with me, I'm getting a divorce, my ex won the custody battle, whatever the death is. Sometimes we just try to pretend like it's not happening because it feels like too much. And sometimes because we do that, grief comes out in unexpected ways that people don't even attach to the grief. They might just say, oh man, that person's a bitter person. Or how come they're so quiet? Or it's like they're so depressed all the time. Like, what is going on? They've checked out of the relationship. How come they're not stepping up anymore to do their role? What's going on? Some people don't even realize that that's what's going on inside of them. They've never had someone tell them, hey, bro, you're grieving. Hey, sis, you're grieving. They don't even know to pinpoint that that's what's happening. Some people start having pain and they're going to the doctor, and it's like because you have unaddressed grief. You bottled it up and now it's coming out of your body somehow. Your body is going to want to release that. So how do you process through a loss? How do you grieve something or someone who cannot come back, cannot return? Especially if it's someone that you connected with deeply, something that you were passionate about with every fiber of your being. Someone that you're so proud of. Someone that you want to see step into the fullness of who they're called and created to be. How do you process what happens when they're gone? How do you process what happens when it's gone? How do you navigate your day-to-day now? There's something about a security knowing that they're always there and that, or it's always there and you can always go to it. You can always go to them. You can connect. You can laugh. You can joke. You can clock in. You can say hi. You can clock out and go to happy hour after. Like all these things that you loved to do. You can pick them up from school every day and all these things. And now it's, oh, I get to pick them up every other week. Oh, I only get weekends. Oh, you don't want to have anything to do with me anymore. Oh, you are in the ground. You're in a mausoleum. I can't call you. I can't text you. I can't get you up. I can't walk in and say hey to that secretary who's just so sweet every time I say hi to them. I can't see that one patient that just brings me joy anymore. So what do you do? My first recommendation is to let it come up and out of you as it needs to. If that means you need to get up from your desk right now and run to the bathroom and sit and cry or scream somewhere, scream into your shirt, do that. If you need to bang your fist on something, do that. If you need to call a friend and just bawl your eyes out, do that. If you need to pray and talk to Abba Father, who grieves with us, like if you need to pray and ask why, he can handle that. Do that. If you need to write a letter, do that. If you need to go on a walk, do that. Do what you need to do to let it out when it comes out the way it's coming out. If you need to now go get some therapy, some trauma therapy, do that. Talk to your pastor, get a counselor, get a specialized trauma therapist, talk to a psychiatrist, get a life coach, somebody. You need to talk about it. Because like I said, it will come up and out of us. When I practiced pharmacy, I saw so many people who are sick, but because the healthcare system is built to just get you in and out, in and out, in and out, you miss why they're sick. We chalk it up to, oh, they're not eating right and they're not exercising and they're not. Some people have not let grief go, and so grief festered in their bodies and manifested themselves as disease, as pain, as chronic pain, as migraines. As clinical depression. Like, the body's going to do what the body's going to do. So you might as well process with it. And there's no set time frame for this. So do what you need to do as it happens, as it comes. What did I do? I talked to my family. I called my brother, cousin, that's what I called him. I called his sisters, who are like my sister cousins, to check up on them, to talk it through. I talked to my best friend. I talked to other friends. I let people know throughout my birthday that I was simultaneously grieving. That one minute I'm celebrating life, and the next minute I'm bawling. The next minute I'm confused. The next minute I'm hyperventilating. And I had people with me who let me go through every stage as they came, in whatever way they came. I did all of that. I also recommend taking the time to say a proper goodbye. And what I mean by that is not lying to yourself about a situation just because it feels better inside. I'm more of a proponent of encouraging honesty and realness with yourself, and to say the proper goodbye that the situation allows. I wanted to go to South Africa, but I couldn't get a ticket. I wanted to touch his body, see his body. I didn't get to do that. I wanted to see him before he went to the ground, and that wasn't allowed. Every way that I wanted to say goodbye didn't happen. And so my proper goodbye was praying and crying out to God to help me say goodbye, to close this door with my sweet cousin, Victor, my brother, Victor. And so when I realized I wasn't even going to see his body, and I started hyperventilating and screaming and crying all at the same time while watching his funeral online, Jonelle held me, and I started singing a song that has brought me comfort in a lot of losses. When peace like a river attendeth my way, when sorrows like sea billows roll, whatever my lot, thou hast taught me to say, it is well with my soul. 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 I didn't sing it like that because I was bawling and not breathing well. I scream sang it as I was gasping for air. And I cried out, Abba, you have to help me close this. You have to help me find closure. Because I didn't even get to see and touch my brother's body. I want to see my brother, Victor. My brother, cousin Victor. I want to see his body. I want to touch it. And I can't. So you've got to help me. Holy Spirit, help me. Jesus, stay on your knees praying for me to close this door. I need you. Help me to do this. So when I mean proper, I mean real. I mean honest. That doesn't mean grief is going to stop. It's going to keep coming. I'm still crying. I'm still processing. He's been in the ground for half a week now. Since I screamed, cried, sang, prayed during his funeral, early Saturday morning here, I have continued to cry every day. I've continued to ask questions. I've continued to check in with his sisters, my sister cousins. And have reminded myself that it is real and it is well because of the gratitude that I have to have even known Dr. Victor Olusola, the amazing plastic surgeon. To have a proper closure, a proper goodbye to whatever and whoever you're grieving on your time. On your time. You can continue to process it, and eventually you're going to need to get up and keep going. But in that moment, when you're ready, have your proper, honest goodbye of accepting the reality of it while still going through whatever you need to go through to make sense and process the reality of that thing. And I think my last advice would be to move forward. I wonder how his sisters are gonna go back to work. And they're wondering too, but they're trying. They're gonna try. They're gonna do it. Because life keeps going, even while you're grieving. You might grieve for a few days. You might grieve for weeks, months, even years. That doesn't mean you have to die with the thing that you've lost. That doesn't mean you sit in a corner for the rest of your life. It doesn't mean you get in the grave with it or with them. It means you do both and. You grieve and you press forward. You process and you press forward. You cry and you move forward. Not move on, move forward. Because there are some losses that you just don't move on from. Some do, and usually those aren't grieving situations. But if it's a real grief, there's something in you that doesn't always move on, but it does move forward, and it can. Usually not alone. But some people do it alone. I'm encouraging you not to. I'm encouraging you to find a support system that can check in, that's willing to check in, that is committed to checking in to make sure that you're pressing forward and reminding you of your why and reminding you of what to do. And look, this is the season of transitions that we're talking about, right? This is not supposed to be cute. Grief is never supposed to be cute. It can look messy. It can look all sorts of wild. But it's your reality. It's currently mine. And so I had dedicated the last grief episode a few seasons back to my Uncle Eddie. Today's episode I'm dedicating to his son, my brother, cousin, Dr. Victor Olusola. Because life has to move forward. I want to be grateful for the breath I still have in my lungs, though the breath of God has returned back to the Lord until it's time to wake Victor up from his sleep and Jesus take us all home. And so, how are you doing? How are you mentally and emotionally? Are you grieving? Do you have a friend who's grieving? Are you trying to figure out how to help them go through their messy process? May I recommend listening more than speaking? This is where Job in the Bible, where his friends really, they messed up. I'm not saying talking doesn't help. I'm also saying that sometimes talking really is detrimental. So, if sitting in silence with them, you can do that. If you want to share this episode with them and sit with them while holding their hand and giving them a hug, you can do that. Just be there for them. Check in with them. Make sure they're eating and sleeping. And if you're the one grieving, make sure you're eating and sleeping. Make sure you're talking to people. Make sure you're checking in with yourself. But I really want to know how you're doing, and you can share in the comments if there's a loss that you've had recently. Please share it. I would love to pray for you and for the situation, or if you had a friend or someone that you love that's lost someone or something really important to them. You can share that in the comments, and we can talk it through. I can pray about it. Other people can share their hearts with you, and we can love each other through these things. So that's really it for today's episode. And I'm sorry if you have lost someone or something really important to you. I pray that God gives you everything that you need to continue to use the voice that you have, the breath that you have. As you go through all that you need to press forward. If there's any topics, questions, suggestions, guests that you want on the show, even yourself, you can go to my website, you can go to my socials. All that information is in the show notes. Life is like a vapor. In Ecclesiastes 3, verses 1 through 8, it does mention that there is a time to mourn. There is a time to weep. Allow the both ends of your life to work in tandem. Make space for them to not be enemies, but to actually be friends. Joy and grief, they can hug each other. Allow them to do so if you need it. I love you guys. Take care, stay safe, God bless, and besitos. By God's grace, we'll talk soon. Bye.